Hello, class, my digital virtual class. Welcome to Tuesday's Read Aloud. Remember yesterday that Rule and Mutu decided to invite Viji and Ruku to their job, and we found out that they call the Himalayas, right? And it's a giant trash heap. We're not totally sure what they're doing there, and that's where the story picks up. So here we go. And I just want to point something out that we're pretty sure VG is the one telling the story, and she's always saying you. So I'm pretty sure that the you is Ruku. And remember in class, we talked about how it seems like maybe she's telling this story to Ruku or writing this as a letter to Ruku. Okay. You marched a few feet away from us and away from the dump and stood with your hands on your hips, Kuti by your side. Sorry, Ruku, I said. We have to stay. No, VG, you said in a reasonable tone. Go. We don't have a choice, believe me. I don't love it here either. You pinched your nostril. It's not the nicest place, but it's so we can stay together, Ruku. Hmm? You cocked your head. If I don't work here and earn money, we'll have to run right back to Appa. Understand? Appa hit VG, you said slowly. Appa hit Amma. My throat felt tight. You hadn't said anything about how he had hit you. VG and Ruku together. You came over and patted my cheek. Ruku will make necklaces, you announced. I hugged you tight. Where's Ruku going to sit? Mutu said. My eyes darted from one mound to another, wondering what to do. But you solved the problem yourself. You found a plastic bucket to sit under the shade of a thorny acacia tree, about as far from the rubbish range as you could go while staying within sight. You weren't as sheltered from the sun as I'd have liked, but there was nothing we could do about that. You opened your bag and pulled out a long piece of string, knotted the end with a bead, so the rest wouldn't fall off. You worked quietly, your fingers sifting through the beads, searching for another that matched. So it looks like Ruku is just going to sit there and make like beaded necklaces while the others work. I had to start working too. What do? I hitched up my skirt as high as I could. Search! Mutu prodded a broken bottle at the base of a mound. For treasure. Like this. Glass or metal scraps are best. The waste mart man will even buy cardboard and cloth if they're not too tattered. Hesitantly, I prodded the mound closest to me. Nestling between a rusty can and a broken bottle was the carcass, the dead body of a rat. Oh, nausea, the feeling of throwing up, rippled through me, but I couldn't give up before I started. I tried to pick up the bottle with my stick, but it slid deeper into the rubbish. Oh. The waste mart man pays nicely for glass and metal, so we can't let it go. Arul grabbed the bottle with his bare hands and dropped it into my sack. But this, he jabbed at an empty juice carton and sent it tumbling farther down the rubbish, is worthless. You'll pay nothing for that. Thanks, sorry. Don't worry, you'll be an expert in no time. I didn't say I don't want to be an expert rag picker. I want to be a teacher. With an effort, I swallowed my words and the bile that had risen in my throat and stepped farther into the mound. The rubbish heap seemed to come alive as I walked through it, sucking my slippers like a hungry beast. My feet sank into the slimy mess. Oh, and I lost sight of my toes. Flies swarmed around my ankles. Shuffle along slowly, like you're wading through a river, Arul advised. He made it sound easy, but it wasn't. I squelched along as best I could, making slow progress. I speared a damp rag and shook it into my sack. But when I spotted a bottle half filled with sour milk, I had to reach for it with my bare hands. Oh, I wanted to run away screaming. The only thing that kept me going was how peaceful you looked when I glanced back at you, sitting cross-legged, making another bead necklace with Kuti, alert and attentive next to you. So they're walking through the trash mountain, looking for glass and other types of metal and bottles that creepy waste mart man will buy from them and pay them for. Okay? Arul must have realized what a slog, how difficult it was for me, because every now and then he called out, "Nice work!" We worked for so long with the sun beating down on our skin that my head started to hammer with pain. And it was a mercy when Arul finally said, "Enough, let's stop." My spirit sank even deeper when I compared their loot with mine. "I'm useless," I said. "I haven't gotten half as much as either of you." "Don't worry," Arul peered into my sack. "Lots of good stuff here. We have more, but it's not worth as much. You'll see." Other than you, Ruku, no one had ever shown me much loyalty. Even half empty, my sack was heavier than anything I'd ever carried before. But with you humming softly as you put away your beads, and our two friends beaming at me like my sack was filled with precious gems, I shouldered my burden without complaint, my back straight, my steps light. Chapter 15, Earning Our Way. On the way to the Waste Mart Man, we stopped by a park where there was a small pond. I cupped my hands, gulped down some water, and then refilled our plastic bottle. Amma would never have let us drink water that wasn't boiled, but we didn't have a choice. So remember how we talked about the rights yesterday? Here's another example of where they have to drink water out of a pond, and they have no other choice to get water, and it's not boiled. And those of you who studied water know why that could be a problem. I stretched my aching arms and rinsed off my slippers. They were unrecognizably dirty, and so was my skirt, even though I had hiked it up when I worked. You and Kuti watched as the boys carefully separated our rubbish into piles: cardboard, metal, plastic, glass. "Ruku wants to help," you told them. "No," I said. "You could cut your hand on a rusty tin." "Ruku wants to help," you insisted. "Ruku wants to help." "If you don't mind," Arul said, "why don't we let her help?" "You're joking," I said, though he sounded serious. "Don't you ever let her do what she wants?" he said. You stalked over to Arul. "Viji, you've got to stop bossing her." "How dare you call me bossy?" Arul softened his tone, but not his words. "You're acting like you own Ruku. Mutu calls me boss, but I don't boss him around all the time." His words pierced me like needles. "Viji, I'm sorry. I see you're trying to protect your sister, but I bet she can do more than you think." "Okay," I finally said. "Let Ruku help. But if she slices her hand in half..." You get to slice my hand in half? Arul grinned. I get to slice your hand into tiny pieces. Agreed, he said. So the rule showed you how to separate and sort the trash. As I watched you stacking pieces of cardboard and humming joyfully, the realization stabbed me that even I expected too little of you. When you were done, your eyes shone. Good work, you said to yourself, and he clapped you on the back. That's right, you're the best helper, Ruku. Best? You glanced at me, fierce with pride. Even though I like seeing you feel happy and valued, my stomach gave a tiny lurch as you and Adderall smiled at each other. Until now, it had just been the two of us. I jabbed the earth with my stick, ashamed at the twinge of jealousy. Adderall deserved your affection too. After all, he'd seen something in you that I hadn't bothered to notice. What else had I, who had known and loved you so long, missed that he'd discovered after knowing you less than a week? Do you hear, Felix? Oh. That's too much, I said, when Arul handed me half of what we had earned that day. I only collected about a quarter of what you did. If I was too ill to collect anything tomorrow, what would you do? Arul said. I'd share everything we had, I said. So whatever money we belong earns to all of us, equally, right? Arul said. That's how it's been with me and Mutu, and that's how we like it. Right, boss, Mutu said. You want to stick with us? You play by our rules. I felt too trembly to say thanks. A good kind of trembly. Not weak and fearful like when we were home. The rupee notes we'd earned were crumpled and dirty. One of them was torn off at the corner. Another had a brown smudge running across Mahatma Gandhi's face. But they looked beautiful to me. Disgusting though the work had been, we finally had money all our own. Our money. I rubbed the notes between my fingers as though they were fine silk. If we had been rich, I'd have held on to them forever, just so I'd remember the feeling of freedom they had given me. We haggled, which is like bargained, like, no, I'll pay you $4 instead of $5. And then the handcart vendor will be like, no, $4.50. And then you'll be like, $3.75. You're kind of, bargaining. We haggled with the handcart vendor for 2 big bunches of bananas, one ready to eat, the other still green, so it would ripen in a day or two. Then we stopped by a shack where brightly colored sweets were packed tight in glass jars. And you chose your favorite color, green. What would you like for dinner? Adderall asked. Your first earnings, so you get to choose. Ruku's probably happy with just fruit and sweets, I said. But I'd like some biryani. As we approached a street vendor whose spicy food was making my mouth water, a passerby in a faded sari wrinkled her nose and pulled her sari across her face. Ooh. With a shock, I realized that by climbing the Himalayas, we had probably sunk lower in everyone's eyes than we had been before. As much biryani as we can have, I said, handing over our cash to the vendor. My hand trembled. Did we look too dirty and scruffy to be served? Luckily, the vendor was kind and even tossed a dry roti to Kuti. But as I gratefully took the warm package of food from him, he did ask us to get going. Please don't hang around here. You'll drive away customers. You and the boys hurried back to the park with Kuti, but my feet dragged. Could we ever recover enough to clean ourselves up and go to school? Or was that dream as impossible as pretending that trash dump was a treasure trove? What are you waiting for, Akka? The food's going cold, Mutu said as he settled down on a bench to eat. Arul's done praying. I slowly rolled the spicy mixture of rice and vegetables and meat into little balls with my fingers and licked the sauce off my hands. You happily sucked on your sweet. Kuti scarfed up a bit of food that fell through Mutu's fingers. Dusk was falling by the time we returned to the bridge, and I was glad. The darkness hid the dirt stains on my clothes from view. So your response today is to describe what it's like for Mutu, Viji, and Arul to pick trash in the Himalayas. So that was a very descriptive chapter, and I just feel like we have to talk about that chapter because the author put so much effort into describing what it was like. Here's an example of what a topic sentence could look like. Picking trash in the Himalayas is difficult and disgusting work. Now, when you write this today, I'm going to be very demanding. You shouldn't give one detail or two. The author put so much effort into describing what this work was like, what the trash was like, that really push yourself. Add 3, 4, 5 details. It's disgusting, right? And really push yourself to show it. All right. Good luck and thank you and have a great day.